The night Daniel learned that he might not have much time left, he did not cry. He sat alone at the kitchen table, listening to the soft ticking of the old wall clock. Outside, rain touched the windows gently, one drop after another, as if the whole world had slowed down. On the refrigerator was a photograph of his 8-year-old son, Noah. Noah was smiling in the picture, missing one front tooth, holding a small wooden airplane Daniel had made for him. Daniel picked up the photograph and whispered, "I'm sorry, buddy." The doctor had told him that afternoon that his illness was getting worse. There were treatments, but no promises. Daniel understood what the doctor had carefully avoided saying. He might not be there when Noah became a teenager. He might not see his first day of high school. He might not meet the girl Noah would someday love. He might not be there when his son became a father himself. That thought hurt more than the illness. Daniel had always believed a father's job was to be there, to teach his child how to ride a bicycle, how to tie a tie, how to apologize, how to love, and how to stand back up after life knocked him down. But what could a father do when he knew he might not be there? That night, Daniel found an old voice recorder in a drawer. He placed it on the table. For several seconds, he simply stared at it. Then he pressed the red button. "Hi, Noah." His voice trembled. "If you're listening to this, I guess you're older now." He smiled through tears. "I don't know how old you are when you hear this. Maybe 12, maybe 20, maybe much older." He took a slow breath. "There are some things I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid I would forget them. So I decided to leave them here for you." He stopped recording. Then he thought for a moment and wrote something on a small envelope. "Open this when you are afraid." He placed the recording inside. The next morning, Daniel bought 20 small envelopes. On each one, he wrote a different sentence. "Open this when you feel alone. Open this when you fall in love. Open this when your heart gets broken. Open this when you become a father. Open this when you need to forgive someone." And finally, on the largest envelope, he wrote, "Open this when you miss me." He put all the recordings inside an old wooden box and hid it beneath his bed. Noah knew nothing about it. For him, his father was simply Dad, the man who made terrible pancakes on Sunday mornings, sang loudly in the car, and always left the hallway light on when Noah was afraid of the dark. Daniel wanted to keep being that man for as long as possible. So he never told Noah about the box. Instead, he spent every evening creating another recording. Sometimes he talked for 5 minutes. Sometimes he could barely speak for 30 seconds. 3 weeks passed. Daniel continued living as if nothing had changed. He drove Noah to school every morning, packed lunches that sometimes contained too many cookies, and stood beside the soccer field every Saturday afternoon. Whenever Noah looked toward the crowd, Daniel was there, always there. But every night after Noah fell asleep, Daniel returned to the little table beside his bedroom window. The wooden box waited underneath his bed. Inside it, another envelope was slowly taking shape. "Open this when you feel alone." Daniel stared at the words for a long time. Then he reached for the recorder. "Hey, Noah." He paused. "I wonder where you are right now." He smiled softly. "Maybe you're sitting somewhere with your headphones on. Maybe you're driving your first car. Maybe you're sitting in a college dorm room. Or maybe you're having a terrible day and you don't want to talk to anyone." His voice became quieter. "If you're alone right now, I want you to remember something." Daniel looked toward the hallway. The little nightlight outside Noah's bedroom was glowing. "You were never a burden to me." He swallowed. "Not once." The recording stopped. Daniel wiped his eyes and started again. "When you were 8, you used to crawl into my bed whenever there was a thunderstorm. You would say you weren't scared, but you'd hold on to my shirt so tightly that I could barely breathe." He laughed softly. "You probably don't remember that. I do. I remember everything." That recording became almost 6 minutes long. When Daniel finished, he placed it inside the envelope. But he wasn't done. There were still many more moments he wanted to leave behind. One night, Noah came home from school unusually quiet. Daniel noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Daniel smiled. That answer usually means something. Noah sat at the kitchen table. After a long silence, he whispered, "Some kid said I'm weird." Daniel pulled out a chair and sat beside him. "Why?" "Because you still walk me to the bus stop." Daniel looked at his son. For a moment, he felt something break inside his chest. Then he said, "Being loved isn't embarrassing, Noah." Noah looked up. "Someday you may wish someone loved you that much." Noah leaned against his father. Daniel wrapped his arms around him. He wanted to memorize the weight of his son's head against his shoulder, the warmth of his little hands, the sound of his breathing. Everything. Later that night, Daniel made another recording. The winter came quietly that year. Snow covered the small town where Daniel and Noah lived, turning rooftops white and making the streets almost silent after sunset. Noah loved winter. Daniel loved watching Noah enjoy it. They built a snowman in the front yard, drank hot chocolate near the fireplace, and spent an entire Saturday trying to make a snow fort that collapsed 3 times. Daniel laughed harder than he had in months. But when Noah wasn't looking, he sometimes placed a hand against his chest and waited for the pain to pass. His illness was getting worse. The doctors had started using words Noah was too young to understand. Daniel understood every one of them. Still, he refused to let fear steal the days he had left. One evening, Noah asked, "Dad, were you ever in love?" Daniel nearly dropped his coffee. "What kind of question is that?" Noah shrugged. "My teacher says grown-ups fall in love." Daniel smiled. "Your teacher is right." "Did you?" Daniel looked toward the fireplace. "Yes." "With Mom?" Daniel's smile changed. "Yes, with your mother." "Do you still love her?" Daniel nodded. "Some people stop being part of your everyday life, but they never stop being part of your heart." Noah thought about that for a moment. Then he asked, "Will I fall in love someday?" Daniel laughed softly. "Probably. What if I get hurt?" Daniel looked at his son carefully. "You probably will." Noah frowned. "Then why do people do it?" "Because sometimes," Daniel said, "loving someone is worth the risk of having your heart broken." That night, after Noah went to sleep, Daniel opened the wooden box. He took out a fresh envelope. "Open this when you fall in love." He pressed the recorder button. "Hi, Noah." Daniel smiled. "If you're listening to this, then I guess someone has finally made your heart beat a little faster." He chuckled. "First, congratulations." Then his voice became gentle. "Love isn't always going to feel like fireworks. Sometimes it's going to look like someone remembering how you take your coffee. Sometimes it's going to be sitting quietly beside each other after a long day. Sometimes it's going to be choosing the same person, even when life becomes difficult." He paused. "But Noah, please remember this. Don't lose yourself trying to keep someone. Love should make your world bigger, not smaller. Choose someone who is kind when nobody is watching. Choose someone who listens when you're hurting. And most importantly, become that person for them too." Daniel looked at the photograph of Noah on the refrigerator. By the time Noah turned 10, he had stopped asking why his father sometimes looked tired. Children notice more than adults think. Noah noticed the medicine bottles hidden behind the coffee machine. He noticed how Daniel sometimes sat quietly in the car before coming inside. He noticed that his father no longer carried him on his shoulders. But whenever Noah asked, Daniel always smiled. "I'm okay, buddy." And Noah believed him, or at least he tried to. That summer, Daniel took Noah camping beside a quiet lake 2 hours from home. They slept beneath the stars. Before going to bed, Noah whispered, "Dad?" "Yeah?" "Do you think people can stay together forever?" Daniel looked at the stars. "I think some people can stay with you forever, even when they're not standing beside you." Noah didn't understand. He simply moved closer to his father. Daniel wrapped a blanket around him. That night, while Noah slept, Daniel recorded another message. He knew there might come a day when his son would sit alone somewhere with a broken heart. He wanted to be there then, even if only through his voice. "Hi, Noah. I'm guessing something happened. Maybe someone you loved walked away. Maybe someone you trusted disappointed you. Maybe you're sitting somewhere wondering if you'll ever feel okay again." Daniel paused. "I wish I could sit beside you right now." His voice became softer. "If I could, I wouldn't tell you to stop crying. I wouldn't tell you to be strong. I'd probably just sit there. Because sometimes people don't need advice. They just need someone who stays." Daniel took a slow breath. "But since I can't promise I'll always be there physically, let me tell you what I learned. Heartbreak doesn't mean your love was foolish. It means you were brave enough to care. You gave someone a part of yourself. That's not weakness, Noah. That is courage." He paused again. "Please don't become cold because someone hurt you. Don't punish the next person for the mistakes of the last one. Keep your heart soft. Just make sure you give it to someone who knows how to hold it. Daniel smiled sadly. And if someone leaves you, let them. Don't chase people who have already decided to walk away. Sometimes the most painful goodbye is also the beginning of finding yourself again. The recorder clicked. Daniel thought the message was finished. Then he pressed the button once more. There is something else I want you to remember. Your worth never depends on who chooses you, not your friends. The years began moving faster. Noah turned 11, then 12, then 13. Daniel watched his little boy become a teenager almost without noticing it. The house slowly changed. The toy airplanes disappeared from Noah's room. Posters covered the walls. The small shoes by the front door were replaced by sneakers that somehow seemed to grow larger every few months. And the conversations changed too. Noah no longer told his father everything. Sometimes he came home, said, "Hey, Dad," and disappeared upstairs. Daniel understood. Growing up meant needing space. But every night Daniel still listened for Noah's footsteps. He treasured every ordinary sound. A door closing. A bedroom light switching on. Water running in the bathroom. Those sounds meant his son was home. One rainy evening, Noah came downstairs and found Daniel sitting by the window. "You okay?" Daniel smiled. "I'm always okay when you ask me that." Noah rolled his eyes. "You're weird." "I know." Noah grabbed a glass of water. Then he stopped. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "What happens when people die?" Daniel looked at him. It was the question he had secretly feared. He took a long breath. "Why are you asking?" "Someone at school lost their dad." Daniel nodded. "That can make you think about things." Noah sat across from him. "Are you scared of dying?" Daniel looked at the rain sliding down the window. "Sometimes." Noah stared at him. Daniel reached across the table. "But I'm more afraid of leaving people I love." Noah didn't know what to say. Neither did Daniel. So they sat together in silence. That night, Daniel opened the wooden box. He pulled out another envelope. "Open this when you feel alone." He turned on the recorder. "Hey, Noah. If you're listening to this, I'm guessing you're somewhere I can't reach you right now. Maybe you're in your first apartment. Maybe you're away at college. Maybe you're sitting in your car after a terrible day. Maybe the people around you are laughing. But somehow you still feel completely alone." Daniel paused. "I want you to know something. Being alone and being lonely aren't the same thing. Sometimes being alone is exactly what you need. You can sit quietly. You can take a long walk. You can listen to rain. You can think. You can breathe. But don't convince yourself that nobody cares. Someone does." "I always did." Daniel's voice became softer. "Even when you were angry with me. Even when you slammed your bedroom door." The summer after Noah turned 14, something happened that neither of them expected. Daniel was getting weaker. He tried to hide it, but hiding things from a 14-year-old who had spent his entire life studying his father was becoming impossible. One afternoon, Noah came home early and found Daniel sitting on the kitchen floor. A glass had fallen beside him. "Dad!" Noah rushed over. "I'm fine," Daniel said quickly. But Noah didn't move. "You're not fine." Daniel looked at his son. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Noah whispered, "How long have you been sick?" Daniel lowered his eyes. "Long enough." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I wanted you to have a childhood." Noah's face changed. "You lied to me." Daniel felt those words deeper than any physical pain. "I know." Noah walked upstairs. The bedroom door slammed. Daniel remained on the kitchen floor. That night he didn't record anything. He simply sat beside the wooden box. For the first time he wondered if the recordings had been a mistake. Maybe Noah deserved the truth. Maybe keeping the truth from him had been another kind of pain. 3 days passed. They barely spoke. On the 4th evening, Noah came downstairs. "Dad?" Daniel looked up. "Yeah?" "I'm still angry." "I know." "You should have told me." "I know." Noah sat beside him. "Are you going to die?" Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know when." Noah looked down. "I hate this." "So do I." They sat together. Then Noah leaned against his father's shoulder. Daniel wrapped his arm around him. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Noah cried quietly. That night Daniel opened the recorder. He knew exactly what the next message needed to be. "Hi, Noah. This one is for the day you need to forgive someone Maybe it's me. Daniel paused. Maybe it's someone who hurt you. Maybe it's yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean what happened was okay. It doesn't mean you have to forget. And it doesn't mean you have to let someone hurt you again. Forgiveness means you decide that someone's mistake will not live inside your heart forever. He took a slow breath. I hope you learn that before anger becomes too heavy to carry. If someone hurts you, give yourself time. Cry if you need to. Walk away if you need to. By the time Noah turned 17, the little house had become quieter. He was finishing high school, thinking about college, and spending more time with friends than at home. Daniel pretended not to notice how quickly the years were disappearing. But he noticed everything. He noticed Noah shaving for the first time. He noticed the suit hanging in his closet for graduation. He noticed how Noah had started standing taller, speaking deeper, and making plans that no longer included his father in every detail. One evening, Noah came home carrying an acceptance letter. Dad. Daniel looked up from the kitchen table. I got in. For a second, Daniel didn't understand. Then he saw the smile on his son's face. College? Noah nodded. Daniel stood and hugged him. I knew you could do it. Noah laughed. You're crying. No, I'm not. You definitely are. Daniel wiped his face. Something must be wrong with my eyes. They laughed together. That night, Daniel sat alone with the wooden box. Only a few envelopes remained. He picked up the recorder. His hands were shaking. Hi, Noah. If you're listening to this one, there's a good chance you're a father now. Daniel smiled. That thought feels strange to me. I still remember the little boy who used to hide under the kitchen table when I pretended to be a monster. He laughed quietly. And now you might be holding a little child of your own. Daniel paused. I want you to understand something about being a father. You will make mistakes. A lot of them. You'll lose your patience sometimes. You'll worry about money. You'll wonder if you're doing enough. You'll probably stand beside your child's bed someday and watch them sleep, wondering how something so small can possibly mean so much. His voice softened. That's when you'll understand me. Daniel looked at Noah's childhood photograph. I used to think being a father meant having all the answers. It doesn't. Sometimes being a father means saying, I don't know. Sometimes it means apologizing to a child who is too young to understand why you're sorry. Sometimes it means sitting awake at 2 a.m. because your child has a fever. And sometimes it means letting them walk away even when every part of you wants to hold them close. Daniel took a deep breath. When your child grows up, don't measure your success by how much they obey you. Measure it by whether they feel safe coming home. If they fail, let them tell you. If they make a mistake, let them tell you. If their heart breaks, don't say, I told you so. Open your arms. Daniel's voice cracked. Because someday they won't need you to solve their problems. They'll just need to know they can still come home. He paused. And Noah. The following spring, Noah graduated from high school. Daniel was there. He sat in the second row wearing a navy blue jacket that had become a little too loose on him. When Noah walked across the stage and received his diploma, he searched the crowd immediately, and there he was. His father, standing, clapping, smiling. For a moment, everything felt normal. But life has a way of quietly turning pages while we're busy, reading the current chapter. 3 months later, Daniel's condition worsened. The hospital visits became more frequent. The treatments became harder. The conversations became softer. One evening, Noah sat beside his father's hospital bed. Neither of them spoke much. The room was filled with the gentle hum of machines. Daniel looked toward the window. The sunset painted the sky gold and orange. Beautiful, he whispered. Noah nodded. Yeah. After a long silence, Daniel reached into the drawer beside the bed. He pulled out a small key. Noah. His voice was weak. There's something under my bed at home. Noah frowned. What is it? Daniel smiled. A gift. For now? No. Daniel shook his head slowly. For later. Noah wanted to ask more questions, but something in his father's eyes told him not to. So he simply took the key and slipped it into his pocket. A week later, Daniel passed away peacefully. The rain fell that morning, soft, steady. almost gentle, the kind of rain Daniel always loved. The funeral was small. Friends came. Neighbors came. Former coworkers came. Everyone had a story. Everyone remembered a kindness. Everyone said the same thing. Your father was a good man. Noah thanked them. He smiled when he was supposed to smile. He nodded when he was supposed to nod. But inside he felt empty. The world kept moving. People went back to work. Cars continued driving past the house. The mail still arrived every afternoon. Everything continued. Except his father. The silence inside the house felt unbearable. One night, unable to sleep, Noah walked into Daniel's bedroom. The room still smelled faintly of coffee and old books. His eyes landed on the bed, and suddenly he remembered the key. His heart began beating faster. Slowly he knelt beside the bed. There, hidden against the wall, was a wooden box. Exactly where Daniel had said it would be. Noah's hands trembled as he unlocked it. Inside were dozens of envelopes, neatly arranged, each one labeled in his father's handwriting. Years passed. Noah moved to another state for college, found his first real job, rented a small apartment, and slowly built a life of his own. But the wooden box followed him everywhere. It sat beneath his bed, then inside a closet. Then, after he bought his first house, it found a place on the highest shelf in his bedroom. Noah opened envelopes only when life told him to. When he was afraid, he listened. When his heart broke, he listened. When he became a father to a little girl named Emma, he listened. Every recording sounded different because Noah was different each time. But his father's voice never changed. It was always gentle, always patient, always home. One autumn evening, Noah sat on his porch while Emma played in the yard. She was 6 years old and had the same missing tooth smile Noah once had. She ran toward him holding a small wooden airplane. "Daddy, look!" Noah froze. He knew that airplane. It had belonged to him. The one Daniel had made when Noah was 8. He had kept it all these years. Emma held it carefully. "Grandpa made this?" Noah smiled. "Yes. Did he make it for me?" "No, sweetheart." He looked at the little airplane. "He made it for me." Emma sat beside him. "Tell me about Grandpa." Noah looked toward the sunset. There were thousands of stories, but he didn't know where to begin. That night, after Emma went to sleep, Noah brought the wooden box downstairs. For the first time in years, he picked up the envelope labeled, "Open this when you miss me." His hands trembled. He pressed play. Static filled the room. Then came a familiar voice. "Hey, Noah." Noah closed his eyes. "I knew you'd eventually open this one." A quiet laugh followed. "And if you're hearing it, I'm probably not there to annoy you anymore." Noah laughed through tears. "I wish I could tell you that missing someone gets easier. It doesn't. You simply learn how to carry it." Daniel's voice softened. "There will be ordinary moments when you suddenly think of me. You'll smell coffee. You'll hear an old song. You'll see snow on a window. Someone will laugh the way I used to laugh. And for 1 second, you'll forget. You'll turn around expecting me to be there. I know. I did that with my own father." Noah opened his eyes. "I want you to know something. You don't have to be sad every time you remember me. Please don't turn my memory into a room you are afraid to enter. Remember the good things. Remember the pancakes I ruined, the camping trips, the rainy nights, the terrible singing in the car. Remember how we laughed." Daniel paused. "And when you miss me badly, go outside. Look at the sky. Take a deep breath. And tell yourself this." Years later, Noah found himself sitting in the same place where his father had once sat. The old wooden house had changed. The walls had been painted. The kitchen had new cabinets. The garden was larger, but the little window beside the kitchen table was still there. The same window where Daniel had spent so many nights recording messages for a son who didn't yet know he was being given a lifetime of love. Noah was now 42. His hair had begun to turn gray. Emma was grown. And Noah had recently become a grandfather. Life had moved forward, exactly as his father had wanted. One evening, Noah brought the wooden box outside. He placed it on the porch beside an old wooden chair. There was only one envelope left. He had avoided it for years. The words were simple. "Open this when you are ready." Noah stared at it. His hands trembled. Then he opened it. Inside was a final recording. He pressed play. For a few seconds, there was only silence. Then Daniel's voice appeared. Hi, Noah. I don't know how old you are right now. I don't know what your life looks like. I don't know if you're happy, but I hope you are. Daniel paused. And if you're not, I hope you remember that life is allowed to change. You are allowed to begin again. You are allowed to become someone new. Don't spend your life trying to become the person you think I wanted. Become the person you know you can be. Noah closed his eyes. His father's voice continued. I spent a lot of time being afraid that I wouldn't see you grow up. I was afraid I'd miss your first heartbreak, your first job, your wedding, your children. I thought leaving you early would mean I was losing everything. But I understand something now. The love between a parent and child isn't measured by the number of years. It is measured by what remains after those years are gone. Daniel took a slow breath. If you're hearing this, then I guess I was wrong about one thing. I thought I had to stay alive to keep being your father. But I didn't. I was your father in every bedtime story, in every lesson, in every hug, in every moment you chose kindness when you could have chosen anger. And every time you comfort your own child, I am there. Noah could no longer hold back his tears. Daniel's voice became softer. So don't be afraid of losing me again. You already lost me once, and you survived. Now live. Really live. Go somewhere you've never been. Love without keeping score. Forgive yourself. Hold your children longer than you think you need to. And when someone you love tells you they are afraid, stay. Sometimes staying is the greatest gift a person can give. The recording became quiet. Then Daniel whispered, One last thing, Noah. I never needed you to remember every word I said. A long silence followed. Then his final sentence. He held the recorder against his chest. For the first time, he didn't feel like he was saying goodbye. He felt like he was saying thank you. Emma came outside and sat beside him. Was that Grandpa? Noah nodded. She leaned against his shoulder. What did he say? Noah looked toward the horizon. He smiled through his tears. He told me to live. Emma smiled. Are you going to? Noah looked at his daughter. Then at the old house. Then at the wooden airplane resting on the porch. Yes, he whispered. I think I finally am. The sun slowly disappeared behind the trees. The world became quiet, and somewhere in that quiet, Noah understood the greatest gift his father had left behind. Not the recordings, not the wooden box, not the words. It was the courage to keep loving after loss, because sometimes the people we love leave this world, but they leave pieces of themselves inside us, a voice, a memory, a lesson, a kindness, a love that refuses to disappear. And sometimes when we are afraid, lonely, heartbroken, or simply missing someone, we don't really need to hear their voice again. We only need to remember what their love taught us. Noah closed the wooden box. Then he placed his hand on Emma's shoulder. And together they watched the first stars appear, the same stars Daniel had once watched with a little boy beside a quiet lake. The story had ended, but the love had not. It never would.